Hello, this is John Aker, call sign Nomad. This is my YouTube channel. The top line of the splash screen is their YouTube is calling a handle, part of the URL to find this channel, youtube.com/@John Aker, aviating author. And note the dots, the periods between the last four words. That forms the handle. This introduction is the first of more than a dozen videos that I generated that follow my autobiography, recollections, my life in and out of the military. And they will represent planes I flew during the 18 years of active flying status I was on during my 20-year military career as a United States Air Force pilot. I found software that runs in the computer flight simulator world, matching airplanes that I flew in real life. And I narrate them with a narrative stream of consciousness, stories of what was happening in my life during the times when I flew those airplanes. And, well, they're war stories, you know, of course. And in war stories, you have to be careful because the first liar ain't got a chance. You'll learn a little bit about computer flight simulators and videos, the equipment I use to get it done, and we'll have some fun. And check your six back there. I might be on your tail. Nomad is back. Let's take a look at the rest of this series.
From the slide you can see that this is the first of 5 videos about the featuring the Kc135 airframe or versions of it. My total flying time over 18 years of active flying, half my time was in the 135 airframe, tankers and reconnaissance. Got a pin from lapel pin from Boeing aircraft, shows a silhouette of the airplane, and reads 2,000 hours. This first one will start off in transition to the Kc135 at Castle Air Force Base in sunny California. Let's take a look at her.
Well, the Nomad's back in the cockpit. This is John Aker bringing you the 9th in my series of videos. This one is going to be about the Kc-135 and later on some other variations of that same airplane. Right now I'm sitting on the ramp at Castle Air Force Base. I again left my family in Indiana, headed to Castle, which is in California, near Merced. Elevation here is 189 feet, so we can't seem to get much in the way of elevation at airports I've been to. Give you a quick walk around the airplane. The people who developed this sim didn't give us as many whistles and bells, so I can't open any doors for you. But you see two of the engines, 1 and 2 here on this side. J57 Pratt & Whitney's. No fans, no reversers. Get about 10,000 pounds of thrust out of each one of them. We did carry water for takeoff. Water augmentation gave us around 13,000 pounds of thrust. About this time when I was flying it, they came out with the 747. And that airplane had more thrust in one engine than we had in all four of ours. Typical Boeing configuration, split windscreen. If there's a window in the middle, it's a Douglas airplane. The crew entry hatch was right through here, and we'll look at the picture of it a little bit later. There's four wheels on each landing gear truck. And we'll see a picture of a cargo compartment here in a minute. There's a hatch on the overwing hatch on both sides. After escape hatch is back here. There's another version of it. I got to use that one time. I'll tell you about that down the road. Typical Milky Way with the SAC emblem on it. Made it stand out. As much as we cut SAC, it was a pretty good command. Getting airborne will demonstrate this boom. This section right in here will extend out about another 12 feet or so. The boom comes down. Boom operator like KC-97 flies it with these rotovators. Okay, let's step inside and take a look at the cockpit. Wasn't any room outboard to get into the seats. This is a little deceptive. Pilot had nose wheel steering here. In the sim, it's tied to the rudder pedals. You can see it, the rudder pedals moving with that steering wheel. This is an upgraded cockpit to what I had in the 135s when I flew them. The basic engine instruments are here. We didn't have a flight engineer. This particular sim has way upgraded flight management systems installed here. We had none of that. This one also has thrust reversers. Didn't have that. Here's the speed brake handle. Okay, let's compare what we see in here with what the actual instrument panel in 135s of the day looks like. The photograph, this is actually of a reconnaissance aircraft nicknamed Rivet Amber. I'll probably mention her later on. And you can see she also had upgraded engines and did have thrust reversers. Typical control instrument panel, the basics. I have artificial indicator, artificial horizon, did compass, a large one. It was marked on 2-degree increments, and you could actually do a rudder turn and make a 1-degree turn on a precision final. The engine instruments are here in the center, similar to that what we see in the sim. This dark panel here is the fuel panel. Controls flow to all 4 engines and out to the boom for aerial refueling. Here's autopilot controls. And you see the rudder pedals here. See the handle a little better on the copilot side. There's a handle that you could rotate. You could move the rudder pedals fore and aft. The Dash 1 said once you're settled in the seat, got it where you want in relation to the yoke, you should adjust the rudder pedals until you can have full throw of the rudder pedal with your legs straight and knee locked. So that's pretty easy to do on the ground, but a lot of times we were swapping seats in the air. So how do you do that? You can't slam full rudder into it in the air. You could, but it's not very bright. So I figured out a way to do it. I got my seat adjusted where I wanted it, fore and aft, up and down. I cranked these rudder pedals all the way out, and then 2.5 turns back, put them to a point where I could go full throw on the rudder pedal and lock my knee. Okay, let's stow that picture. And we're back in the cockpit. I mentioned that we use water for takeoff. And that's why you see a 135 taking off. She's throwing black smoke out of all four. And I wanted to show you another still shot. As I was talking about the water. That's what a photograph of it looks like. We'll take a look at the sim in a minute and see what that looks like. And also, I mentioned the doors. This is the crew entry door. There's a ladder hanging down here. That ladder was not retractable. It just unhooked from the top, and you could push it up in there, close the door for overnight, or if your crew's on board, boom operator pulled it up and stowed it over here. It's a sliding window similar to that KC-97, and the cargo door. Pretty big old door. You can, a little later on I'll tell you the kind of stuff you can cram through there. I know you can get a J57 engine in there because I flew with one. Five engine jet. Of course, it wasn't producing any thrust for me. A question came up in our minds about what would happen if this door should come open in flight. And since it never happened, nobody really knew. Didn't know whether it'd come off, whether it would affect the airflow to the point where you could lose control of the aircraft. So you just believed in your boom operator because it was his job to close that door and dog it down tight. Let's stow those back out of the sight, over on the side again. Okay, we'll do a takeoff here. About halfway through my time in Merced at Castle, I got in touch with Pat, and she and the our two daughters, decided to move out to Merced. So when we finished here, we could take off and drive to up north to Fairchild Air Force Base, which was my PCS, permanent change of assignment station. Put a notch of flaps down, the gears down, that's good, you're on the ground. Control check, ailerons working, elevator's working, rudder's working. You did this in the cockpit to make sure you had freedom of movement. Of course, you couldn't see back there. I can tell you could always look out the window and see that left aileron if you're the pilot. Okay, back in the cockpit here. Let's bring the power up. Release the brakes. release those brakes, and we're smoking. All four are smoking. Water injection across the board. Rumble, rumble, rumble. And rotate. As we're ready to climb and gear up. Flaps up. Still smoking. You did have to be careful not to overrate. Turn the nose up 8 degrees to get her off the ground. You over-rotate, you could lose control, she'd stall. And at least one pilot did that. They crashed and killed everybody on board. That's enough to ruin your damn day.
Big Dan the Tanker Man. Can't leave before I tell you this one. Going through as a co-pilot, we had to take emergency procedures in the flight simulator, and I drew a fella for a student AC upgrading in the 135 from KC97s, and that was his nickname, Big Dan the Tanker Man. Smoked a stogie cigar all the time. There was always one in his face. I was a smoker, so it didn't bother me that bad, but we're jetting along in the take handling emergency procedure after emergency procedure, and there's an instructor sitting behind us, and he can throw anything at us he wants to, from a flat tire to 3 engines out. Finally, he called a halt, and there's a little pan sitting up on top of the instrument shroud in the 135 simulator, and it's filled with a little bit of oil and a couple of electric wires, bare wires sitting in there. He could throw a switch and smoke that to give you a smoke in the cockpit. We're jetting along, and finally that instructor says, Dan, if you get rid of that cigar, you'd know you got smoke in the cockpit. Run the checklist, damn it. And that was it. We ran the checklist, and it worked out okay for us. In fact, I think the instructor got a chuckle out of it. So now let's pick up our flight back to heading back on up to Spokane, Washington.
We had her leveled off, heading for. We might as well borrow this airplane and take it up to Fairchild, Spokane, Washington, east side of the state. So we'll be. I said this is the 9th in my series. I'm going to break it into at least 2, maybe 3 parts. See how it goes. Because over 4,000 hours of flying and 20 years in the Air Force, more than 2,000 of it was in this KC-130, or in this 135 airframe, KCs and RCs. So it deserves a little bit more time than some of the previous planes I flew. And we'll leave it there, and I'll pick us up when we pick back up, we'll be at Fairchild Air Force Base in the state of Washington. Nomad saying I'll see you up there. If you enjoyed some of this material, you might reach up there and click that like button. Want to come back, hit the subscribe to this channel. This is John Aker, call sign Nomad, flying flight simulators based on my career as a U.S. Air Force pilot.